shocking trial, Rick Harrison, the famous star of the reality TV show Pawn Stars, was given a life sentence. Harrison has had a career full of ups and downs, from running the famous gold and silver pawn shop to becoming a TV star. Rick was once seen as a success story in the antique business, but actions related to financial fraud and the sale of stolen antiques have dragged him into a turbulent legal battle. What led to this outcome? Let's look into the details of his downfall. We're going to reveal the shocking story and the truth about the life of a man who was once seen as a model of success. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel, and make sure you're set to receive notifications of new videos. Richard Kevin Harrison, better known as Rick Harrison from the popular reality TV show Pawn Stars, became famous for both his colorful character and his colorful personality. The Harrison family's gold and silver pawn shop at 713 South Las Vegas Boulevard became the setting for Pawn Stars in July 2009. And Rick, who would have thought that a normal pawn shop could become one of the most popular shows on the History Channel, showing the interesting and sometimes strange world of pawnbroking? Richard Kevin Harrison, born March 22, 1965 in Lexington, North Carolina, is a successful businessman and a well-known face. Americans saw him on TV when he was 2 years old. His family moved to San Diego, California, where he spent most of his childhood. Few people know that Rick had epilepsy from the age of 8. A condition that made him spend a lot of time reading, which helped him learn a lot about history, which was important to his later career. Rick's childhood wasn't easy. His epilepsy made him miss school several times, and he finally dropped out in his sophomore year. Rick's lack of formal education didn't dampen his desire to learn and succeed. Instead of using traditional ways to learn, he self-educated by reading books on a wide range of topics, especially history and business. This allowed him to build a large body of knowledge which viewers of Pawn Stars could easily see. So what happened to a curious and independent person like Rick that got him into legal trouble? As a teenager, Rick started working with his father on different projects. He learned how to quickly judge the value and authenticity of things, which would be very useful in his future career. When he was 17, Rick's girlfriend got pregnant and they got married. They had 2 sons, Corey and Adam, before getting a divorce after 8 years of marriage. In 1981, Rick's family moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, where his father, Richard Benjamin Harrison, opened a coin and gold shop. Rick's personal life went up and down, which affected the choices he made and the things he did. In the end, what began as a small coin shop turned into a famous gold and silver pawn shop in 1989, which later became the main setting for Pawn Stars. The Harrison family made the switch from a coin shop to a pawn shop because they thought they could make more money in the music business. The early years were tough as Rick and his father worked hard to build their reputation in Las Vegas. Rick often had to deal with difficult customers and sometimes dangerous situations. Later, his career led him to make some bad choices. By the early 2000s, Rick was a well-known figure in Las Vegas because of his knowledge of different kinds of collectibles and antiques. His pawn shop became known as a place where unique and valuable items could be found, attracting both locals and tourists. Rick saw an opportunity to make money by turning his business into an entertainment venue. But what happened next? What led a successful and influential person like Rick Harrison to face a life sentence? Stay tuned to find out. Rick didn't stop at running a successful pawn shop. He had a big idea to make the daily activities at his shop into an exciting reality TV show. What made Rick want to pursue this idea with such passion? Do you see the entertainment and educational potential in the unique deals and the long history behind each item? After years of knocking on TV network doors and getting turned down many times, Rick's persistence finally paid off in 2009 when he signed a deal with the History Channel, which was a big step forward in his career. Little did Rick know that this choice would change his life and the lives of his family forever. Not long after Pawn Stars premiered, it took viewers behind the scenes at the gold and silver pawn shop, where Rick, his son Corey, his respected father Richard Old Man Harrison, and close friend Austin Chumley Russell did their daily work. The show showed how they valued, bought, and sold valuable and sometimes downright strange collectibles. It was such a hit that Rick quickly went from being a local pawn shop owner to a TV star known by millions of people. His simple catchphrase, confidence, and deep knowledge of history quickly won over viewers. "The best I can do is" became an iconic phrase every time he negotiated with customers looking to sell their valuable music items. One thing that made Pawn Stars stand out from other reality shows was that Rick always made sure that each episode had interesting historical facts about the items being auctioned off. Rick often shared background stories and in-depth details that showed how knowledgeable he was. Under Rick's leadership, the pawn shop grew and started getting visitors from all over the world who wanted to meet the show's stars or even be in an episode. Sales went through the roof, and Rick took advantage of his newfound fame by writing books, going to live events, and even opening a successful restaurant called Rick's Rollin' Smoke Barbecue and Tavern. Pawn Stars took Rick to new heights. Many Americans related to Rick Harrison's stories of overcoming hardship, and his straightforward business advice earned him respect not only in the entertainment industry, but also in the business world. But what really made Rick Harrison famous was his uncanny knack for finding hidden value in things that others might overlook. Is this a natural talent? His sharp eye and deep knowledge are what made Pawn Stars so successful. Fans of Pawn Stars have seen Rick value a huge range of items, from rare historical documents to classic cars, from ancient artifacts to modern collectibles. His knowledge seems endless, but he often asks experts to help him with things he doesn't understand. Could this be a sign of a smart businessman who knows his limits? We've seen Rick buy and sell a huge number of items. It was his extensive knowledge of watches, guns, and American historical artifacts that helped him make those huge profits. One of Rick's most famous deals was the 2001 Super Bowl ring from the New England Patriots, which he bought for $20,600, but later found to be worth much more. Was it just a lucky find or the result of his sharp instincts and extensive knowledge of how much sports memorabilia is worth? Another impressive purchase was a collection of Spanish gold, which included Rick Harrison has had a lot of successes in his life, like finding balloons from a shipwreck in 1715 that show his love of history and precious metals. But are these successes all there is to know about Rick's music life? Behind the bright stage lights and funny TV banter, Rick's personal life has been full of deep ups and downs and major heartbreak. His life isn't just about rare antiques and million-dollar deals. It also has Rick's life has been marked by 3 failed marriages and probably scars on his heart. It's easy to imagine the emotional pain and sense of abandonment he must have felt as relationships he once thought were solid fell apart. Did each breakup take away a piece of his trust, hope, and vision of a happy family? Rick's first marriage to Kim Harrison began in 1982 and ended just 3 years later. This personal tragedy marked the beginning of the end of his marriage to Kim Harrison. Rick's first experience with the pain of a broken family was when his marriage ended quickly, leaving him with 2 sons, Corey and Adam. The heartbreak made him more careful in future relationships and stronger in his resolve to build a stable career to support his children. Rick's father, Richard, became a rock during this time, giving him practical advice and support in the family business, music. But the pain didn't end there. Rick married Tracy Harrison in 1986 and had 2 sons, Adam and Corey. Their 25-year marriage seemed like a solid base, especially after the birth of their son, Jake. However, they got divorced in 2011, leaving Rick to deal with the pain of personal failure and doubts about his ability to keep his family happy. After the divorce, he kept his personal life more private and focused even more on the pawn shop and Pawn Stars. His father, Richard, remained an important figure in the business and in Rick's life, acting as an emotional anchor. Rick's third marriage to Deanna, which started in 2013, was seen at first as a chance for him to find happiness again after 2 previous heartbreaks. However, by 20,121, that marriage had also ended in divorce, making it the 3rd time Rick had to face the painful reality of a relationship ending. The repeated failures in his personal life made him less trusting of love and more closed off, keeping his private life away from the public. If you're a big Pawn Stars fan and want to know what happens next, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss any important updates. Share this video so your friends and other Pawn Stars fans can join the conversation and learn more about this shocking story. Stay with us as we continue to find shocking and dramatic stories. But Rick's tragedy didn't end there. The death of his father was one of the worst things that happened to him. Rick Harrison's father, Richard Benjamin Harrison Jr., was more than just a partner on Pawn Stars. He was also a mentor and a guiding force in both life and business. The old man was an important part of the gold and silver pawn shop, where Rick learned patience, business savvy, and the true value of family. When his father died, it left Rick feeling deeply alone and forced him to take on more responsibility in keeping the legacy he and his dad built together alive. Since then, Rick has become more reserved, but more. A man named Rick has been very open about his depression, especially after his beloved father died in 2018. Losing his father sent him into a downward emotional spiral, which made the stresses of work and life even worse. This tragedy made Rick more reflective, but it also made him a strong man, determined to rise above adversity. Rick's father, Richard, is his biggest inspiration, teaching him values like strength and responsibility. That helped Rick stay grounded and keep running Pawn Stars and the pawn shop. It looked like the pain would end there, but soon after, Rick lost his son Adam to a drug overdose. Losing a child, especially to a drug overdose, is unbearable. Rick's tearful reflections, filled with regret and haunting questions, show how deeply he feels. Can time ever truly heal a wound like this? In a tearful interview, the creator of Pawn Stars talked about the unreplaceable death of his 39-year-old son, Adam. Rick Harrison watched his son Adam struggle with life's problems. He didn't hide the fact that Adam had been struggling with drug addiction since his early 20s. Rick sent his son to rehab multiple times in the hopes that he'd find the right path, but Adam stayed addicted, leaving Rick heartbroken. Did Rick miss something? Did he make the wrong choice? In pain, he asks himself if he should have done something to stop this tragedy. Things I did might have been better, but I think I did everything right. What if I did that or that? You have hundreds of thoughts running through your head, Rick said, revealing the heavy load he carries. Adam Harrison died of an overdose. He had used fentanyl, a very dangerous synthetic painkiller, which ended his life. Can anyone truly understand the heartbreaking pain a father goes through after losing his beloved child? Adam Harrison was found unresponsive as police found that he died of an overdose of fentanyl and methamphetamine in a hotel in Las Vegas where he had been staying. The coroner's office said it was a tragic accident. Before this, Rick had spoken out about the fentanyl crisis in the U.S., telling people they needed to be more aware of how dangerous this drug was. Could Adam's death be a painful wake-up call for society about this epidemic? In an interview with Graham Benzinger, Rick Harrison bitterly, as a parent of a child struggling with addiction, you try to be tough on them, but you never think an overdose will happen. This emotional statement shows how helpless and heartbroken parents feel when their children are struggling with addiction. Even though he did everything he could, Rick Harrison never imagined the worst tragedy would happen to his own family in the music business. The pain is so great that words can't describe it. But the storm didn't stop there. It raged on, as Rick Harrison became involved in a major lawsuit that ended with a shocking life sentence. So why is Rick Harrison now seen as the biggest con artist of the century? Dark secrets, fraud, tax evasion, and selling fakes. Sadly, along with his success, Rick also had some bad experiences, many of which were caused by his music choices. In 2022, Rick Harrison was involved in several legal disputes with the gold and silver pawn shop. One of the most important lawsuits was in 2012 when a customer named Wayne F. Jeffrey said Rick and the shop sold stolen jewelry that Jeff claimed he bought. He bought a diamond ring from the store and later found out it was part of a theft case and had been taken away by police. He wanted to be reimbursed for the money he spent, plus additional damages totaling about $40,000. Rick replied that his shop strictly followed all pawn shop regulations, including checking items with law enforcement databases before selling them. He said that the store couldn't have known the item was stolen unless it had been flagged by the police system. After a period of legal proceedings, the court ruled in Rick's favor, saying that the gold and silver pawn shop had not intentionally broken any laws. Jeff did not get any money, and the lawsuit ended without causing Rick any major financial loss. However, things got worse in 2023 when Rick's legal problems took a dramatic turn. Federal agents suddenly raided his home in Las Vegas. At first, no one knew what the investigation was about, which led to a lot of rumors and speculation online. Fans and even people close to Rick were shocked when FBI agents, investigators, and representatives from the IRS and the Department of Cultural Heritage Protection raided Rick's home and the famous gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas. When federal agents and law enforcement arrived at the shop, the incident made headlines right away. Employees and customers who were there at the time were temporarily detained and asked to give information. Staff at the gold and silver pawn shop claimed they didn't know of any deals Rick may have had and called the event a major shock to everyone there. At the same time, FBI agents seized several important items such as computers, accounting records, and a variety of inventory they thought could be linked to stolen artifacts from museums and private collections. Among the items seized was a collection of Mayan artifacts thought to have been stolen from a famous museum, and documents showed that these artifacts had gone through shady middlemen at agents at Rick's house. Also found an 18th century painting that had been stolen from a museum in Paris during a major heist in 2003. They also found many contracts and transactions that showed the trafficking of stolen antiques, including several statues that were missing from private collections. According to confidential sources within the IRS, Harrison may have avoided paying taxes by not declaring all of his income and hiding money made from antique sales and other deals. Millions of dollars were charged with tax evasion after the IRS found problems in the gold and silver pawn shop's financial records. Tax experts said that Rick's shop had a number of big transactions that weren't fully reported in the financial statements, and it looked like the money was going through shell companies or anonymous accounts to avoid paying taxes. There were also claims that Rick Harrison was involved in illegal deals with foreigners. IRS investigators found that Rick Harrison hid some of his international business income by passing them off as fake fees or discounts. This was done to lower his tax liability. The investigation led to a number of serious charges against Harrison, such as fraud, tax evasion, and buying stolen antiques through middlemen. Harrison was accused of trafficking artifacts stolen from museums and private collections. The scandal did a lot of damage to his reputation. People started to doubt the morals and legality of the deals made at his pawn shop, which hurt his public image. David Green, a famous antique collector with a strong voice in the collecting community, was a key witness in Rick Harrison's case. Green met Rick Harrison and said it was one of the things that made him question the legality of the deals made at the gold and silver pawn shop. Green visited Rick's shop in late 2020. David was going to sell a bronze mirror from the Qing dynasty that was more than 300 years old and had been passed down through generations in his family. When he went to Rick's shop, he thought he was dealing with someone who really liked antiques and understood the historical value of things like the bronze mirror he was selling. Rick always seemed passionate and knowledgeable about antiques, so I felt comfortable selling the mirror to his shop, David said in his testimony. However, after the mirror was transferred and Rick paid him a fair amount, David started to notice some strange things. In the weeks that followed, he had the chance to talk to other antiques collectors and learn that his bronze mirror had shown up at a major auction at a famous museum in New York. The mirror had been resold for a very high price, but no one knew where it came from. David then started his own investigation and talked to experts in the antiques business. Several friends in the business confirmed that the mirror may have been resold through shady means or even stolen from private collections before ending up with Rick Harrison. After that incident, I started to suspect that many items in Rick's shop might not have legitimate origins, David wrote in. In his testimony, he said that the experience made him question the deals he had made at the gold and silver pawn shop. He said that when he sold his antique, he didn't think it might have a shady history, but when he found out that it had been sold again, without a clear history, he felt lied to and thought that other things in the shop might also have unclear or questionable histories. Was Rick really involved in these shady activities? The investigation seemed to have been sparked by transactions that raised red flags. Soon after the raid, the History Channel stopped making Pawn Stars. Would this be the end of Rick's TV career? His lawyer, David Marshall, a famous Las Vegas lawyer, told everyone that Rick had always run his business carefully and legally. Soon after the raid, Rick was arrested, but released the next day with a court date just a few days later. Could there be a completely different outcome? The person behind the image of a straightforward, knowledgeable businessman was not what his lawyer, David Marshall, said he was. Marshall said Rick firmly denied all charges and would fight to the end in court, but would that denial be enough to stand up to the evidence investigators had gathered? The legal battle went on for almost a year, with Rick continuing to say he was innocent. However, as time went on, more evidence and damaging statements from former employees made his case weaker than ever. Prosecutors showed encrypted financial records, suspicious messages, and statements from former employees who said Rick told them to change paperwork for high-value items. They also showed proof that he had set up offshore accounts to hide the money he made from very valuable transactions. One very damning piece of evidence was a series of messages between Rick and an unknown supplier that talked about how to change the origin of an 18th century document that was thought to have been stolen from a university. Could this be the proof that can't be argued with? In another exchange, Rick was accused of talking about how to structure a transaction so that it wouldn't trigger the required reporting requirements for large cash deals. Did these messages reveal a sophisticated way to avoid legal oversight? In the end, Rick was given a life sentence. The courtroom fell into a heavy, suffocating silence, as if all sounds had been cut off. As the judge prepared to deliver the verdict, all eyes were on Rick Harrison, who had tried to stay calm. Music was on trial, but no one could take their eyes off of the tension in his eyes. Sitting behind him was his son Corey, whose face was pale and showed shock and worry. Chumley Rick's longtime friend, partner, and protege couldn't hide his feelings. He rested his head in his hands and looked sad and disappointed. The tension in the courtroom was palpable because this wasn't just any trial, it was a meeting with destiny. As the judge read the sentence, the defendant, for because of your role in the trafficking of stolen antiquities and serious financial fraud, this court sentences you to life in prison, the judge said. The mood became even more tense. This was a shocking verdict not only for Rick, but also for many legal experts. It seemed like an unusually harsh punishment for financial crimes, but the judge made it clear that the sentence was for more than just financial wrongdoing. It was also a punishment for the irreparable damage done to the cultural and historical heritage of humanity. Mr. Harrison stood up. Judge said sternly that he was seen by the public as a protector of history and someone who valued the stories behind ancient artifacts. But in reality, he took part in stealing and destroying irreplaceable cultural treasures for personal gain. The court could not ignore how bad his actions were. After the sentence was given, Rick's lawyers filed an appeal right away, saying that the punishment was too harsh and violated the defendant's rights, especially since the charges were not violent. They asked that Rick be released on bond. In a shocking turn of events, the court denied his bail request. The picture of Rick Harrison being led away in handcuffs quickly became a media sensation and then quickly went viral on social media, sparking a heated public debate. Is this the end of all hope for him? Has justice really been done? Or will Rick Harrison become a victim of a legal system he once thought he could understand? The public and media's response to the sentence created a deep divide among some of Rick's fans thought he didn't deserve such a harsh sentence, saying that it was just a series of bad financial decisions in a shady business environment. They saw him as someone who had dedicated their life to the pawn and antiques world out of a deep love for music history. On the other hand, others thought the sentence was fair, saying that Rick's actions not only hurt his own reputation, but also did a lot of damage to global cultural heritage at the History Channel, where Pawn Stars had aired. The network quickly cut ties with Rick Harrison after the verdict, canceled the show, and pulled all reruns from its schedule. In an official statement, the channel said it was deeply disappointed in Rick's actions and reaffirmed its commitment to protecting historical artifacts and cultural heritage. It called the decision a difficult but necessary step to protect the network's music integrity. Pawn Stars had become an iconic part of television history. It will be hard to fill the huge gap left by this legendary History Channel show. The question remains, what show will replace it? Despite his legal troubles, Rick Harrison had a huge impact on reality TV and the pawn industry. Before his legal problems, he had built a huge business empire that went far beyond the gold and silver pawn shop. He opened restaurants and bars in Las Vegas and had plans to expand to other cities as well. Would these businesses still do well without Rick's help? The gold and silver pawn shop is now run by his son Corey, but the job isn't easy. In an emotional interview a few months after his father was sentenced, Corey talked about how hard it is to keep and grow the family business. We've put in place strict measures to make sure the origin of every item we buy. What happened was an accident, and we're committed to being part of the solution, not part of the problem. Corey said that the problem was that he hoped these steps would help rebuild trust with customers and the music community. Chumley, who always saw Rick as both a mentor and a father figure, also talked about the mixed feelings he had. I learned so much from Rick, he said, but I also have to accept that there were sides of him I never saw or maybe didn't want to see. Could the truth about Rick be something that not even those closest to him fully understood? Despite all the trouble, the Harrison family is still encouraging. Letters from all of you have truly been a lifeline for our dad, Corey said. He reads every letter and finds strength in knowing so many people still believe in him. Is this outpouring of love enough to help Rick get through his darkest days? The family has also set up prayer gatherings outside the shop where loyal fans come together to show their support. Could these kind acts really make a difference during such a hard time? Rick Harrison's case is still going on, and every new development is getting a lot of attention from the public. Pawn Stars and fans' attention only make the situation more complicated and mysterious. What will happen in the end? Can Rick Harrison weather this legal storm? Harrison's life has had a lot of ups and downs, from building a famous antiques business empire to facing a life sentence for his crimes. His mistakes have had a big effect on his career. Reputation. This story is still a strong reminder of the hardships and bad outcomes that can happen when you make bad choices in life. Will Rick be able to get through these problems and rebuild his life? Only time will tell. Thanks for watching. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay up to date on the latest developments. In this case, share the video with your friends so you can find more shocking twists and turns together in the future.